After rebirth, I kept the secret of my 300 million US dollars. After I won the 30 million US dollars lottery ticket, my boyfriend Ethan secretly gave the ticket to Lily, the broke queen bee of the school. He tried to comfort me, saying that the path to top universities was still waiting for us, while she had nothing left. Overjoyed, Lily drove away recklessly, got into a car accident, and cost me my life. In court, Ethan forged a suicide note from me and testified that I had died by suicide. With the evidence and testimony in his favor, Lily was acquitted of all charges. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the moment Ethan was fretting over Lily's bankruptcy. This time, I hid the lottery ticket and hinted to him, "You don't have the money to save her, but you still have the path to top universities." Despite having grades good enough for Ivy League universities, Ethan deliberately applied to a lower-tier college and sold his acceptance letter for $150,000 US dollars to help Lily. At the school, Lily's financial struggles became the hot topic, and Ethan was the most anxious person. His lips were covered in stress-induced cold sores, but he lied to me, claiming it was from studying late. He asked me, "Olivia, didn't you say you might win the lottery? Did you?" His face was filled with anticipation. I shook my head, feigning disappointment, and his expression immediately fell. He quickly packed his bag, muttering, "I'm going to the library to study. I'm not walking home with you." Once Ethan left, I tightly clutched the lottery ticket I'd been holding. I had lied. I had won the lottery in my previous life, a total of 30 million US dollars. I couldn't wait to share the news with Ethan, but he gave the ticket to Lily instead. We still had the path to top universities, he'd said. She had nothing left. "I'm the class representative, Olivia. It's my responsibility to help struggling classmates." How ridiculous. If he wanted to help someone, why didn't he use his own money instead of stealing mine? After losing the lottery ticket in my previous life, I placed all my hopes on the path to top universities, but the day before the exam, Lily, high on her newfound wealth, drove recklessly and hit me, killing me. After my death, she was plagued by guilt and cried her eyes out, but Ethan couldn't bear her pain and forged a suicide note from me, testifying that I had killed myself. With this evidence, Lily was found not guilty and walked free. Out of gratitude, Lily confessed her feelings to Ethan, and with his help, she secured a university recommendation and was accepted into an Ivy League university alongside him. They became the perfect couple everyone envied, while I was forgotten, a casualty of their success. Painful memories flooded back, and I gripped the lottery ticket tightly. This time, I was determined to not only keep my winnings and rewrite my fate, but also make those two pay dearly for their betrayal. I quickly cashed in the lottery ticket, and after paying the 6 million US dollars tax, I was left with 22 million US dollars. Seeing such a huge sum in my bank account, I felt a deep sense of security, and even my steps became lighter. When I returned to the school, to my surprise, as soon as I stepped onto the campus, I saw Lily crying by the pond area on school grounds, surrounded by a crowd of fawning admirers offering their sympathy, including Ethan, who had claimed he was studying at the library. In the crowd, Ethan was inconspicuous. While others vied to get closer to Lily, Ethan was left on the periphery, watching her helplessly. When Lily accidentally caught sight of him, her expression was filled with disdain. I suddenly remembered that in my previous life, Lily had only started seeing Ethan in a new light after he stole my 30 million US dollars lottery ticket for her. From that moment on, he went from an unremarkable nobody to her most loyal follower in her eyes. In this life, Ethan and I were both poor, and to Lily, once she lost her wealth, Ethan was just a smart but poor scholarship student, unworthy of her attention. Looking at Ethan's pained expression, yearning for someone he had no chance with, I recalled his happiness when he handed my lottery ticket to Lily in the previous life. He had said, "As long as she's happy, I'd rather go to hell." Before, Ethan and I were neighbors and desk mates, inseparable. Everyone thought we were a couple, and even I thought so, just missing the final step of confessing to each other. But that day, after a heated argument, he had looked at me mockingly and said, "Olivia, how could you think I liked you? Being with you is too boring. Most of the time, I wish you were her." Then I remembered, that's impossible. She's too radiant, full of life, warm like the sun, while you're lifeless. Ethan's words echoed in my mind. In my previous life, he had proven himself. He stole my lottery ticket, protected a murderer, got Lily a recommendation letter in exchange, and entered a prestigious university with her. He had made himself the hero of his love story while completely destroying my life. He wasn't a murderer, but he was no different from one. I looked at Ethan coldly. In my previous life, he had sacrificed me to become the champion of pure love. This time, I would make sure Ethan sacrificed himself to illuminate his so-called romance. After Lily's family announced their bankruptcy, her life fell into financial hardship. Without money, her entire appearance became haggard. Ethan noticed every detail, and it tormented him. He couldn't help her and was trapped in self-reproach, unable to even concentrate in class. He zoned out every lesson or scrolled through his phone looking for quick ways to make money. My situation, however, was completely different. In my previous life, my financial situation was even worse than Lily's. Without the lottery ticket, I had to study and work several part-time jobs just to barely make ends meet. But this time, with my lottery winnings, I could finally dedicate myself entirely to studying. Ethan had always been the top student in our grade, and I was always second. Everyone thought it was because I wasn't as smart as him, but I knew the truth. It was because the time I wasted on part-time jobs held me back. If not for that, the top spot would have been mine. Now, I was determined to reclaim it. While Ethan was consumed by financial worries, an opportunity arose. The school announced they were reopening a financial aid program, offering a generous $150,000 grant. There was only one spot in our class, and the three of us were competing, me, Ethan, and Lily. When Ms. Evans announced the news, a confident smile bloomed on Lily's face. Ethan immediately turned to her, saying excitedly, "Lily, I don't need this. You should have it." A brilliant smile appeared on Lily's face, and Ethan was momentarily stunned, admiring her even more. I looked up from a pile of practice papers and sneered. I hadn't given up yet. Why should it be hers? I glanced at Ethan. In the past, whenever there was a choice between him and me in such matters, I always let him have it. But that wasn't because I couldn't do it. It was my choice. In terms of voting, he couldn't beat me, let alone Lily. Before her family went bankrupt, she was always arrogant and refused to socialize with her peers. Now that she was broke, almost no one sympathized with her except for her sycophantic admirers. Unless I withdrew, this scholarship was mine. Both of them understood this. Lily squeezed out a few tears, her voice sharp and accusatory. "Olivia, my family is bankrupt. Can't you just let me have this? Don't be so selfish." This was Lily's signature move, playing with morality, using sympathy. She had done this in her previous life. She was a murderer, but in court, she portrayed herself as the victim. It was all her fault, she had cried. If she hadn't been wandering the streets at night, I wouldn't have gotten startled and lost control, hitting and killing her. It was her fault. I panicked. She deserved to die. My expression turned cold, ready to respond, but before I could speak, a lazy yet clear voice cut through the air. "That's moral blackmail. Why should everyone cater to you? We're all struggling." I turned to the speaker in surprise, only to find it was Ryan Miller, a prominent figure at the school and the son of a jewelry tycoon. Ryan was known for his indifference, and there were even rumors that Lily had transferred to the school just to get closer to him. But despite sitting next to him for half a semester, Ryan had always been cold to her. Yet, now he was openly siding with me, embarrassing Lily in front of everyone. Lily's face turned pale, then crimson, and she seemed to want to burn me to ashes with her eyes. Ryan's intervention broke the silence of the others, and the surrounding classmates began whispering one by one, expressing disdain for Lily. "Don't vote for her." Someone mumbled, "She's too ridiculous, too unscrupulous." Lily finally turned her gaze to Ethan, silently pleading for his help. Ethan hesitated, then frowned at me. "Olivia, can I talk to you?" His expression was tense, and I could feel him trying to maintain his composure, though his eyes betrayed his nervousness. Ethan pulled me aside, his voice low and cautious. "Olivia, can you give the scholarship spot to Lily? It's very important to me. You'll help me, right?" Not far away, Lily stood quietly, her eyes fixed on Ethan, waiting for the outcome. Ethan and I both knew this was a test from Lily. If Ethan could persuade me to yield, he would rise in Lily's estimation. She might start accepting him, even relying on him. But if he failed, he would be seen as useless, unworthy of her attention. Their relationship would end there. Ethan was terrified of this outcome, his nervousness evident. He even swallowed nervously while waiting for my answer. On the surface, I pretended to be conflicted, but inside, I was smirking. I hadn't expected that spending a little money would allow me to see Ethan in such a ridiculous situation. It was a delightful surprise. How could I compete with Lily for this scholarship spot? The funding for the school's financial aid program came from me. For years, I had received financial aid from the school, and after winning the lottery, I decided to give back. Moreover, my ultimate goal was to ensure Lily saw Ethan's value. If Lily didn't realize how useful Ethan was, she wouldn't depend on him. But once she did, she would cling to him like a parasitic leech, draining him of everything. I planned to destroy Ethan, but not with my own hands. Watching him be destroyed by the person he adored would ensure his suffering lasted a lifetime. After some hesitation, I agreed to give up the scholarship spot. Ethan immediately ran back to Lily, eager to take credit. For the first time, Lily smiled at him, her eyes curving into crescent moons, and she threw herself into his arms ecstatically. "You're amazing, Ethan." Her voice was sweet and adoring, and her praise made Ethan's face flush red, leaving him flustered, unsure where to put his hands. I returned to my seat and began organizing my files. Just then, Ryan Miller walked over, tall and confident, leaning his hands on my desk and speaking to me with a hint of mockery in his tone. "I thought you'd learned your lesson, Olivia, but I guess you're still a hopeless romantic." I ignored him and continued to focus on my work. Ryan pulled up a chair and sat beside me, asking, "Why bother chasing Ethan? He clearly doesn't like you. If you're going to waste your energy, why not focus some on me? I happen to need a girlfriend." Though his tone was flippant, a hint of genuine interest flickered in his eyes. Before I could answer, Ethan returned, strutting with confidence, clearly bolstered by Lily's admiration. Ryan casually said to him, "Hey, Ethan, switch seats with me. You can sit in my old spot, closer to Lily." Ethan hesitated, looking at me. After all, we had been desk mates since the start of the semester. But he quickly looked back at Lily, who was watching him expectantly. Ethan pretended to consider my opinion and asked me, "Olivia, do you mind?" I nodded, concealing my smirk. It was perfect for him. By sitting next to Lily, Ethan no longer needed my help to prove his worth. She would soon discover how useless he truly was. After the seat swap, Lily glared at me fiercely, her eyes filled with venomous hatred. Her expression only made me laugh. As I expected, once Ethan became Lily's desk mate, she didn't hesitate to start using him. She loved snacks and made Ethan run errands every day to buy her favorites, even skipping class when she craved something. She loved sneaking out and encouraged Ethan to climb over the school fence with her, taking her to arcade or some shady places. Under the flashing neon lights, she would sway to the music and hand him a cigarette, her lips brushing his hand as she did so, a hint of provocation in her eyes. Under Lily's influence, Ethan's transformation was shocking. The once highly praised school prodigy became someone everyone avoided. He started skipping class, neglecting his studies, and hanging out with bad company all day. Ethan was absent from school for 2 days, and when he reappeared, his disheveled appearance shocked everyone. The top 2 buttons of his school uniform were undone, revealing his collarbone, tattooed with Lily's name. Miss Evans, who had placed high hopes on him, was furious when she saw him like this and shouted, "Ethan, have you gone mad? Do you know what you're doing?" But Ethan couldn't even lift his head, leaning lazily by the doorway, looking like he could fall asleep any moment. This wasn't an act. Ethan was truly exhausted, so tired he wished he could just sleep right there. Eating, drinking, and having fun required money, and Lily was broke. Of course, she couldn't afford her extravagant lifestyle. Ethan desperately worked part-time jobs to earn money to pay for her expenses. Miss Evans was utterly disappointed and waved him back to his seat. Lily, however, giggled and praised Ethan, "You're so cool," doing that in front of the teacher. Despite his exhaustion, Ethan managed to smile at her praise, his eyes full of satisfaction. Then, Miss Evans announced the results of the National Physics competition. I had won the gold medal. The classroom erupted in cheers. It was well known that the physics competition was extremely difficult, but its prestige was unmatched. Winning the gold medal meant early acceptance into top universities, basically a guaranteed pass to the best schools. Ms. Evans looked at me, her face full of pride, and said warmly, "You can start thinking about which university you want to go to. With your results, Westwood University and Northwood University are both within your reach." The classroom was once again filled with congratulations from classmates, their excitement overflowing. The cheering woke Ethan, who had been dozing. He rubbed his ears and said impatiently, "It's just early acceptance. What's the big deal? I can get into Westwood University or Northwood University with my path to top university scores, no problem." The noise in the classroom quieted slightly, but no one doubted Ethan's ability. He had always been the top student, and despite his recent decline in grades, his solid academic foundation from the past 3 years meant he was still a formidable opponent. After saying this, Ethan turned to Lily, putting an arm around her shoulder and asking, "Lily, which university do you want to go to?" "I'll choose the same one as you." Lily's face lit up, her eyes narrowing into slits, and she said ecstatically, "You're so sweet." I sneered, but there was no warmth in my eyes. "Any university will do?" I repeated softly, a hint of mockery in my tone. "Ethan, in the end, you'll have nowhere to go." After class, Ryan Miller suddenly suggested celebrating my early acceptance with dinner. His suggestion caught me off guard, and I couldn't help but laugh, teasing him, "Why would you treat me to dinner to celebrate my success?" Ryan looked at me and replied casually, "Because I'm happy for you. Who doesn't want to see someone they like succeed?" His words were blunt, but his gaze lingered on me, carrying a hint of sincerity. Before I could answer, he leaned in closer, saying mysteriously, "Let's go somewhere nice tonight. You might have a surprise." I smiled and nodded. Ryan was as bold as ever, reaching out to ruffle my hair before leaving. After Ryan disappeared, the smile on my face froze, and my fingers clenched into tight fists. No one knew Ryan Miller's true face. Beneath his charming exterior, he was a twisted monster. He enjoyed inflicting pain on animals, women, on anything he could control. In my previous life, the night Lily hit me with her car, I was actually trying to escape the private hell Ryan had created for me. It was the 3rd day of my captivity. I had witnessed him torture over a dozen cats to death, their agonizing screams seared into my mind. Ryan had lifted my chin, a chillingly casual smile on his face. "You're the first girl who has truly interested me. Too bad you were always with Ethan. It made it difficult for me to get close to you." The long wait seemed to have intensified his sadistic tendencies. When he finally caught me, his cruelty knew no bounds. He reveled in my fear, watching me teeter on the edge of consciousness, savoring every one of my pained moans. It didn't matter, in bed or elsewhere, his satisfaction came from my suffering. These memories surged, dark and suffocating, threatening to engulf me. My thoughts were interrupted by Lily's sharp voice, as she demanded from behind me, "How did you seduce him? You act like a good girl. Who knows what tricks you have to hook men?" I turned around to face her, finding her face contorted with jealousy and resentment. My plan to destroy Ryan depended on Lily. I needed to exploit her insecurities and ambition. Now, I adopted a hint of arrogance, leaning in close to make her uncomfortable, and whispered, "He just likes me better." I deliberately provoked her. Lily's eyes widened, looking at me in disbelief. "He really prefers this type." I added nonchalantly, spreading my hands as if to say, "Isn't it obvious? Why else would he like me and not you?" My words struck a nerve. Lily, with her pride and vanity, could never accept that someone would find her inferior to me. Her expression twisted further, struggling to digest my provocation. I followed up with a sweet smile. "Oh, he also mentioned he plans to propose to me tonight. Tomorrow I'll be a rich woman. Marrying into a wealthy family." Returning to a life of wealth and privilege was Lily's ultimate dream, and the jealousy in her eyes deepened. I feigned a sigh and whispered, "It's too soon." But he told me his family is very traditional. If a man and woman become intimate, he must marry her. Since he plans to be with me tonight, marriage is inevitable. I noticed a flicker in Lily's eyes. She was calculating something. Seconds later, she began tentatively asking about the details of my date with Ryan Miller, trying to gather enough information to replace me. Her intentions couldn't be clearer. I laughed inwardly. She was too predictable, falling easily into my trap. I feigned ignorance and told her every detail of the date. Later, when I wasn't paying attention, she slipped 2 sleeping pills into my drink under the guise of concern. I even pretended not to notice and fell asleep. Lily heavily applied makeup to my face, put a mask on me, and changed into my clothes. She walked out with a hint of a triumphant smile, stopping just long enough to look back and sneer at me. "You fool, you deserve to have your life stolen." She murmured, "With this mask, who will know it's not you? Once everything is done, he'll have no chance to regret it." After Lily left, I opened my eyes and calmly dialed the number of a top entertainment reporter. "I have a story for you," I said, my voice calm. "The son of a jewelry tycoon, Ryan Miller, is a violent abuser, and tonight he will show his true colors." The reporter could feel my excitement through the phone. "What are your terms?" they asked eagerly. "This is explosive news," I replied, my voice calm and firm, recalling Ryan Miller's past cruelty, the helpless cats he tortured to death, and his flippant declaration, "Animal abuse isn't moral, but it's not illegal, no one can stop me." "Make it as big as possible," I said. "I want him completely ruined." The reporter agreed. Just as they promised, the story broke that night. News of Ryan Miller's abusive tendencies spread like wildfire. The adored handsome heartthrob was revealed to be a violent sadist. Reports detailed gruesome evidence of animal abuse found in his home, dismembered bodies and horrific specimens. The scandal disgusted everyone. One headline read, "A demon hidden beneath a charming facade." As for Lily, she wasn't spared either. She was carried out of Ryan Miller's house, bruised and tearful. Rumor had it she had several broken ribs, but few people sympathized with her. "Don't feel sorry for her," someone said. "She brought it on herself. Who told her to throw herself at him? She's not alone," another added. "Her loyal follower Ethan will never leave her side." I laughed coldly, thinking of Ethan's unwavering loyalty. It didn't surprise me that he was absent from class for a week. Ethan believed that enduring hardship was a test of love. In my previous life, when Lily faced the risk of going to prison, Ethan's first reaction was to protect her. He felt it was his responsibility to stand by her side, share her burden, and strengthen their relationship. I imagined him now in the hospital, worrying about Lily's medical expenses, while she clung to him like a drowning person grabbing a lifeline. Ryan Miller's cruelty had likely severely injured her, and her financial situation couldn't cover the treatment costs. The jewelry tycoon wouldn't pay her bills. He might even hope she died in the hospital. At this moment, Ethan was the only one she had left. Like a parasitic leech, Lily would drag him into the abyss, ensuring he never had a chance to surface again. Ethan finally returned to school, and the first thing he did was find me. "Olivia," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "can you do me a favor? I need to borrow $150,000 to pay for Lily's medical expenses." I raised an eyebrow, not speaking, and he continued, "We've been friends since we were kids. You're the only one I can count on. Please, just this once. I'll pay you back. You're my only hope." His tone was full of pleading, his words filled with sorrow, but I only felt disgust. Did he really think this would work? Just a few words and I would be burdened with a $150,000 debt, just because his precious Lily needed medical treatment. From my previous life to now, Ethan had always been selfish. Fortunately, I had anticipated this moment. I sighed and said, "Ethan, I asked the bank about a loan, but they said I don't have any assets to mortgage." He avoided my gaze, and I couldn't help but laugh coldly inside. He wouldn't dare mortgage the house. Mrs. Davis, Ethan's mother, regarded that house as her lifeline. If she found out he mortgaged the house, she might kill Lily herself. Besides, that house was the only asset Ethan owned. He wouldn't give it up easily. Despite always talking about love, he cared most about himself. I leaned in, slowly pulled out a brochure for Midtown Technical College from my pocket, and said, "This school has a program where outstanding students can apply and immediately receive a $150,000 scholarship." Ethan's gaze fell on the brochure, and he hesitated. I pretended to understand and said gently, "Don't even think about it. Trading love for the future, that kind of thing only exists in novels. We are ordinary people. No one has that kind of great self-sacrificing love." As soon as I finished speaking, Ethan snatched the brochure from my hand and said dismissively, "You don't understand my love for Lily at all. What's the future? Being with her is what's most important. Who needs the path to top universities? I can make something of myself without it." With that, he turned and left. A smile bloomed on my face. I knew Ethan too well. He didn't truly love Lily. He loved the idea of sacrificing himself for love. That sense of martyrdom gave him a sense of satisfaction. With just a little push, he would choose love without hesitation. He hated the monotony of studying and exams, which was why he was drawn to people like Lily who openly rejected them. But soon, he would realize how empty life was without these exams as a foundation. The next day, Ethan announced that after the path to top universities, he would go to the technical college mentioned in the brochure. His decision infuriated Ms. Evans. Other teachers also tried to persuade him to reconsider. "Ethan, don't be impulsive," a teacher pleaded. "We'll figure out the medical expenses. Don't give up on the path to top universities. You've prepared for it for 12 years. This is your chance to get into a top university and get a scholarship. With a scholarship from Westwood University or Northwood University, you can easily cover Lily's medical expenses. She can wait a little longer." The teachers desperately tried to appeal to Ethan's reason, but their persuasion only strengthened his resolve. The stronger their opposition, the more determined he was to sacrifice his future for love, casting himself as the hero of his own romantic tragedy. Just then, Ethan returned from the hospital, holding Lily in his arms. Her face was pale, and she leaned weakly against him, her fragility highlighting her dependence on him. Ethan was her last hope, and she clung to him tightly, unwilling to let him waver. Lily glared at the teachers with resentful eyes and said in a sickly sweet and mocking tone, "Ethan, listen to the teachers. Give me up. If you go to that technical college, their year-end bonus will be gone." Her words sparked a flicker of disgust on Ethan's face. He couldn't take it anymore and shouted, "I've had enough. You're all too selfish, only thinking about yourselves, not caring about my feelings at all." His voice grew louder and more frantic. "I love Lily, and I'm willing to sacrifice my future for her. What's the path to top universities compared to her? It's not worth mentioning." His shouting silenced the entire classroom. The teachers exchanged glances, their expressions ranging from disappointment to disbelief, as if they were looking at a stranger. Ms. Evans's face turned cold, her hopes for Ethan completely dashed. I stepped forward and whispered to Ms. Evans, "Teacher, it's no use. You can't persuade someone whose eyes are blinded by love." Ms. Evans squeezed my hand tightly, tears welling up in her eyes, and said earnestly, "Olivia, don't ever follow his example. Stay focused." I nodded, and Ms. Evans patted my head, a relieved smile on her face, then dismissed the other teachers. She had given up trying to change Ethan's mind. Lily wore a triumphant expression, a hint of a smug smile on her face, as if she had just passed a major test. But before she could savor her victory, a cold laugh came from the doorway. Ethan froze in panic, stammering, "Mom." Mrs. Davis walked into the classroom and reached us in a few steps. She gripped my hand tightly, her face full of concern. "Olivia, I'm late. I'm so sorry." "Don't worry, I'm here. You are the only daughter-in-law I recognize. Your mother and I are old friends, and I care about you just as I care about her. I won't let anyone bully you." Lily's triumphant expression instantly crumbled. She hadn't expected another obstacle, let alone a powerful opponent like Mrs. Davis. Ethan's confidence also began to falter under his mother's reprimand. With just a few words, she rendered him speechless, too ashamed to mention giving up the path to top universities again. Mrs. Davis gently invited me home. "Olivia, come home with me. Your mother misses you." I nodded but politely refused, saying, "I'll be back in a while." After she and Ethan left, I walked over to Lily. She was fuming, her face red with indignation. I leaned in close and whispered, "Getting around his mother is simple. She has one weakness: greed." Lily frowned, looking at me suspiciously. "Why are you helping me?" I smiled and replied, "Maybe I'm just moved by Ethan's loyalty." Lily tilted her chin up arrogantly, misunderstanding my meaning, "Of course. You're just jealous. Ethan doesn't like you. Nothing you do will change that." I smiled silently, thinking, jealous? Not at all. As for Ethan, the only connection I had to him was his mother, Mrs. Davis. She and my mother were neighbors and best friends, which was why she had always hoped I would be Ethan's girlfriend. In her eyes, I was the best match he could have. But Mrs. Davis was not as trustworthy as she appeared. She was a manipulator, and in my previous life, she completely deceived my mother. After my death, my mother refused to believe I had committed suicide and insisted on finding the truth. Mrs. Davis used my mother's trust in her to lure her to the cliff edge, using evidence as bait, and then pushed her down. This life, I would expose Mrs. Davis's true face, reveal her lies, and drag Ethan down with her. Lily began calculating, no doubt figuring out how to convince Mrs. Davis to accept Ethan's decision to go to the technical college. While she was still thinking, explosive news suddenly spread throughout the school. Someone in our school had won the $30 million lottery ticket. The news caused a stir on campus, with everyone buzzing about it. During the break, Lily was leaning irritably against Ethan, tormented by her injuries. When she heard about the lottery, her pained groans stopped abruptly, and a greedy glint flashed in her eyes. Someone in our school won the $30 million lottery. That's incredible, a classmate exclaimed. If I won, I'd wake up laughing every day. Just then, Mrs. Davis rushed into the classroom with my mother and her mother. Mrs. Davis pointed at Lily and shouted angrily, "You shameless girl, why are you still clinging to my son? I've already told you, Ethan is Olivia's boyfriend. Her mother is here too. If you don't let go, she won't let you off." I suppressed my laughter and watched my mother rush to my side, her face full of concern. "Olivia, don't be scared," she comforted me. "Mrs. Davis has always been good to you. She'll make sure everything is all right." Mrs. Davis nodded in agreement, but before they could continue, Lily suddenly straightened up and announced boldly, "Do you know who won the $30 million lottery? It's me." Her words were like a bombshell, shocking the entire classroom. Everyone was stunned, including Mrs. Davis, her expression twisted with surprise and suspicion. "You're lying," she roared. "If you won the lottery, why would you need my son to trade his grades for money?" Lily sneered, her voice full of contempt. "I was just testing your son to see if he would sacrifice himself for me. If he passed, I planned to split the $30 million with him." At the mention of splitting the prize money, Mrs. Davis's eyes lit up immediately, her greed evident. But Lily scoffed contemptuously and continued, "Too bad he has a foolish mother who forced me to reveal the truth." "Fine, do as you please. I'll let your son go to Westwood University. I won't give him a single penny of that $30 million. Lily said, tears streaming down her face, turned to Ethan and cried, "Ethan, I really wanted to go to the same university as you. I was too selfish and ruined your future." Ethan was deeply moved by her words. He shook his head and said firmly, "You want to go to the same university as me? Don't worry, I'll go to that technical college. No matter what happens, we'll be together." Lily's tears flowed even harder, and she turned to Mrs. Davis, sobbing, "But your mother doesn't approve of me. We can't be happy without her blessing." "I'm sorry, let's break up." Faced with the choice between Westwood University and $30 million, Mrs. Davis smiled without hesitation and said, "Of course I approve. Why wouldn't I? That's why I brought Olivia's mother here today, to let her see the reality." My mother's face showed an expression of disbelief. She stared at Mrs. Davis, unable to comprehend the betrayal. Mrs. Davis impatiently interrupted, "Look, she has $30 million and Olivia can't even pay her tuition fees. How can she compare to her?" My mother was trembling with anger, but I steadied her and said calmly, "If we are really so inferior, then you'd better move out of my place immediately." Both our families owned property, but Mrs. Davis had always relied on her own property for rental income. She had taken advantage of my mother's kindness and had been living at my place, enjoying our hospitality. Mrs. Davis waved her hand dismissively and said, "All right, we'll move out. Your daughter-in-law has $30 million. What's a house compared to that?" Then, she turned her attention back to Lily and began persuading her. After some persuasion, Lily finally reluctantly agreed to stay with Ethan. That day, Ethan signed the agreement to go to the technical college, securing the $150,000 scholarship. The contract stipulated that if he failed to go to the technical college or if his grades didn't meet Westwood University's admission score, he would face a $1.5 million penalty fee. With the money secured, Lily immediately hugged Ethan, and in front of everyone, they left the classroom together. Ms. Evans had completely given up on Ethan and coldly let them leave. They gave Ms. Evans a disdainful look, then walked hand in hand, show off their relationship on campus. Lily used part of the $150,000 to pay for her surgery and still had a considerable amount left. With this money, she quickly resumed her extravagant lifestyle, frequently going to nightclubs and continuing her usual wasteful habits. Meanwhile, Ethan became a celebrity at the school, earning the title of Saint of Pure Love. He was proud of this title and enjoyed the attention. His relationship with Lily became even more high-profile, and he reveled in protecting his so-called true love, feeling like he had a perfect ending. Ethan's happiness lasted until the mock exams in the second semester of senior year. These mock exams simulated the path to top universities, and their results usually predicted actual exam performance well. Ethan's ranking dropped from first in the grade to 10th, while I rose to first. The mock exams results were a wake-up call. Ethan's total score was far below last year's Westwood University admission score. The technical college immediately sent him a warning. If his actual exam score didn't meet Westwood University's score, he would face a $1.5 million penalty fee. For the first time, Ethan panicked. He couldn't bear to be burdened with a $1.5 million debt as soon as he became an adult. He tried to refocus on studying, but when he tried to reintegrate into the class, he found himself ostracized. Why didn't anyone tell me about the weekend tutoring sessions? Ethan stormed into the teacher's office, demanding. Since Ethan had signed the agreement, Ms. Evans had completely given up on him. He was excluded from every class activity, including extra classes. Ms. Evans was indifferent to his anger and scoffed coldly, "The school won't waste resources on students from a technical college." These words seemed to shatter Ethan. His face turned ugly, but he couldn't retort. He muttered, "I'm talented, I don't need extra classes. I just need to attend normal classes to catch up." Ethan abandoned his habit of skip class and started attending every class seriously. However, less than a week later, his resolve began to waver. He found himself unable to fit into the class's study atmosphere. Everyone was focused on the path to top universities, driven by the hope and anxiety of getting into top universities. But Ethan was different. No matter how high his grades were, his destination was already set: the technical college. His classmates avoided him, and the teachers ignored his questions, as if he didn't exist. He was like a gray duckling among a flock of elegant swans. When Ethan first announced signing the agreement, he was celebrated as the saint of pure love. But now he was nothing more than a laughingstock. Day by day, his frustration grew stronger. Meanwhile, Lily had already spent the money Ethan earned from the scholarship, and she swaggered into the classroom, completely unconcerned. Ethan immediately went up to her, his voice urgent. "Lily, can you help me pay the penalty fee? Then we can go to Westwood University together." Ethan had once thought that as long as he was with Lily, it didn't matter where they went, but now he understood that wasn't the case. Lily was startled and stammered. "Paying the penalty fee is useless. I didn't meet Westwood University's score." "I can tutor you," Ethan said eagerly. "If you can think of a way for me to get into Westwood University without studying, I'll pay the penalty fee." She thought her answer was enough to appease Ethan, but she didn't notice the determination in his eyes. After class, Ethan came to my desk, a warm smile he once had on his face. "Olivia, congratulations on becoming the top student in our grade. We haven't chatted in a long time, have we?" He tried to sound casual and asked, "By the way, which university did you choose for early acceptance?" I gripped my pen tightly, suppressing a laugh. As expected, Ethan was up to his tricks again, trying to drag me into his plan. In my previous life, he stole my acceptance letter and used it to secure Lily's spot at Westwood University. Now it was time to settle the score. "Westwood University," I replied calmly. Hearing my answer, Ethan's eyes immediately lit up, and he licked his lips, saying, "That's a good choice." "Olivia, can I see your acceptance letter?" The acceptance letter from top universities was a formal agreement sent to outstanding students. Signing and returning the document guaranteed admission, and the university would follow up with the official acceptance letter. Ethan was a master forger. He could easily use the details on my letter by tampering with the information, replacing my name and photo with Lily's, effectively transferring my spot to her without anyone noticing. In my previous life, that's how he stole my acceptance letter and gave it to Lily. I smiled slightly and handed him the letter. Ethan eagerly scanned the details, committing every line to memory. A triumphant gleam appeared in his eyes, and he returned the letter to me. He put on a sympathetic tone and said, "Congratulations, Olivia." Then, he returned to his seat with a smug expression, leaning close to Lily and whispering his plan to transfer my Westwood University spot to her. Lily squealed excitedly, "Ethan, is this true? You're amazing." Although Ethan didn't like studying, he still believed his plan would succeed. "Lily, even if you don't want to study, I can teach you," he said, a hint of excitement in his voice. "Once the acceptance letter arrives, you'll help me pay the penalty fee, right? Then we can go to Westwood University together." Lily avoided his gaze and nodded nervously. Of course, she wouldn't tell Ethan the truth, which was that she hadn't won the lottery at all. Ethan didn't notice Lily's hesitation and hummed a tune, opening his textbooks, clearly pleased with his plan. I leaned back in my chair, watching him, my shoulders shaking with silent laughter. He really thought I was as naive as in my previous life, that I would easily fall into his trap. "Ethan, I've already prepared your grave. Enjoy this brief happiness, because you will soon fall into eternal darkness." Ethan successfully forged Lily's admission information and swapped it with mine. When I mailed my official admission form, Ethan and Lily were beside themselves with excitement. My classmates congratulated me, saying I had a bright future. Lily couldn't help but laugh and say, "Don't celebrate too early. The final admitted student might not be who you think." One of my classmates retorted, "No matter who it is, it's certainly not technical college couples like you two. What does the path to top universities have to do with Westwood University?" A wave of laughter erupted in the classroom, and these words struck Lily's pride hard. Her face contorted with rage, and she retorted, "Let me tell you, the person admitted to Westwood University will be me. The acceptance letter has already been mailed." Although most classmates thought her claim was ridiculous, her confidence made some uneasy. They came over to warn me to be careful, as incidents of identity theft had happened before. The consequences were severe, ranging from expelled to facing criminal charges, which largely deterred such behavior. But no one could guarantee that Lily wouldn't take the risk. I just smiled and didn't respond. I had planned everything. The day the acceptance letter arrived, Lily and Ethan were the first to rush into the classroom. As Ms. Evans walked in with the letters, Lily's eyes were fixed on them, as if she could burn through the envelopes with her gaze. Ethan gently held her hand, trying to calm her nerves. "Don't worry," he comforted, "your name is definitely on it." The teacher held up the letters, her cold gaze sweeping over Lily and Ethan. "I have 2 early acceptance letters here," she said coldly. "One is for Lily, accepted into Westwood University." Lily let out a sharp cheer and jumped up, celebrating excitedly. But a hint of unease flickered across Ethan's face. "The second one," the teacher continued, "is for Olivia, accepted into Northwood University." Ethan's face instantly turned pale, while Lily was still celebrating, completely unaware of the change in atmosphere. The teacher's next words cut through the air like a sharp sword. "Westwood University informed us that Olivia has already rejected their offer, and they have records to prove it. However, someone attempted to fraudulently claim her spot using her personal information. This is a very serious violation, and we will handle it strictly." Lily finally realized something was wrong, and she turned to Ethan, frowning. "What's going on? Didn't you say it was foolproof?" Ethan's panicked gaze turned to me, his voice trembling with anger. "Olivia, you set me up." I smiled slightly. "I merely went along with your plan." Ethan's plan was perfect. He thought Westwood University wouldn't update my information, and by tampering with my personal details, he intended for Lily to be the recipient of my admission spot. That's why he was eager to confirm which university I had chosen. But what he didn't know was that I had been playing him from the start. I hadn't chosen Westwood University. My real choice was Northwood University. Everything else was a smokescreen. Ms. Evans's voice rang out like a final judgment. "Ethan and Lily, the school has reviewed your fraudulent actions and made a decision. Everyone's eyes turned to the teacher, waiting for the verdict. You are both expelled. The teacher's words were like a bolt from the blue. Ethan's face turned ashen, his expression terrified. Lily, however, erupted in anger. Why should I be punished? This was Ethan's doing. I wasn't involved. If anyone should be punished, it's him. Ethan looked at her, unable to believe she would push him to the front at a time like this. Lily refused to accept the outcome and angrily forced Ethan to admit that it was all his idea and she had nothing to do with it. Ms. Evans looked at them both, a mocking smile on her face, her disdain evident. I looked up and said what everyone was thinking. Ethan, how does love taste? Ethan's expression turned bitter. In the end, he took all the responsibility and prepared to pack his things and leave the school. But he didn't realize that things were far from over. As soon as his expelled news was officially announced, the technical college immediately sent a representative to demand the $1.5 million penalty fee. The representative was clearly angry and said mockingly to Ethan, I knew you were a fool to sign that agreement. Who would give up Westwood University for a mere $150,000? Hand over the $1.5 million quickly, or prepare to spend the rest of your life in prison. At the mention of prison, Ethan's face turned pale. He begged on his knees, pleading with the representative for more time. My girlfriend won the $30 million lottery. $1.5 million is nothing to her. I'll get the money from her right away. He rushed to find Lily, who was currently holding one of my Hermes bags. I caught her red-handed, but she refused to admit it. This Hermes bag is mine, she declared arrogantly. I used to be rich. You're just a poor scholarship student. How could you afford something like this? The bystanders agreed. After all, Lily used to be wealthy. Owning a Hermes bag seemed perfectly reasonable, while I was just a poor student working part-time jobs, unable to afford such luxury. Lily clung to the bag, a triumphant glint in her eyes. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Her behavior was utterly ridiculous. She clearly didn't want to confess, so it seemed I had to reveal the truth myself. I cleared my throat, ready to speak, when Ethan suddenly rushed from behind and slapped me hard across the face. The slap made me dizzy, stars swam before my eyes, and my cheek burned. If a classmate hadn't supported me, I would have fallen. Ethan glared at me, his eyes filled with hatred. Olivia, isn't that enough? You plotted against me, and now you want to slander Lily. I'll kill you. Shocked and dizzy, I trembling touched my lips, feeling cold blood trickle down. Seeing me injured, nearby classmates immediately ran to get a teacher. After hitting me, Ethan immediately turned to tend to Lily. Lily, are you all right? Did she hurt you? Lily threw his hand off in disgust. What are you still doing here? You should be expelled. What are you doing here? Panicked, Ethan grabbed her wrist and pleaded, Lily, the technical college is demanding a $1.5 million penalty fee, or they'll send me to prison. Please help me. I borrowed money for you. I was expelled because of you. I love you. I've done so much for you, and now you won't even lend me $1.5 million. Lily glanced at him scornfully, her voice full of contempt. Help you? Dream on. Why would I give you money? Do you think I care about someone useless like you? You sacrificed yourself for me? That's your honor. As for repayment, forget about it. Now that Ethan was worthless to Lily, she no longer needed to pretend. Ethan was filled with rage and despair. You said you had $30 million. If not for you, how would I have easily signed that agreement? Now, where is your $30 million? Lend me $1.5 million. Is that too much? Do you want me to go to prison? Ethan's pleading earned him some sympathy from the bystanders, and they began to persuade Lily to help. Lily's expression became awkward and guilty. Just as the pressure mounted, the principal walked in with the teachers. Seeing me sitting on the ground, the principal rushed over to help me up, asking sternly, who says she can't afford a Hermes bag? Didn't the school give Olivia $1.5 million in financial aid last time? The entire room fell silent, everyone shocked by the news. Lily looked at me in disbelief. How could you have $1.5 million? The principal scoffed coldly, because she is the real winner of the $30 million lottery, not you, the one who only lies. The truth was revealed. Lily's face instantly turned panicked, while Ethan stared at me blankly, his eyes filled with shock and regret. The principal made no secret of his dislike for Lily and seized the opportunity to announce, "Lily violated school rules and stole someone else's property. She is hereby expelled." Like Ethan, Lily was expelled, her reputation ruined. She tried to make a scene, but no one paid attention to her. Even Ethan ignored her, his attention completely on me. At this moment, he knew he was the only one who could save me. Ethan hesitated, then walked up to me, his voice hoarse. "Olivia, I was wrong." I replied in a cold tone, "Apology not accepted. You owe me medical expenses, and I will also file an assault lawsuit against you." Ethan's face immediately darkened, and he frowned, retorting, "Didn't you always like me? If you pay the $1.5 million, I'll be with you. Isn't that what you always wanted?" His arrogant tone, as if my feelings were a reward, disgusted me. I couldn't help but burst out laughing, my laughter laced with mockery. "How much do you think you're worth? You're going to prison soon. How could I possibly want you?" Ethan's face turned red, both ashamed and angry. He roared, "Stop pretending. You've always liked me, haven't you? Aren't my feelings a reward to you?" But what he didn't know was that he had always known I liked him. Even when he stole my lottery ticket to give to Lily, forged my suicide note, and stole my university acceptance letter, he knew. He used my feelings for him to create a perfect future for his so-called true love, while I could only watch him trample on my heart. Someone like him was not worth any sympathy. My last shred of goodwill towards him completely disappeared. $1.5 million penalty fee, plus my medical expenses and emotional distress damages. Ethan, prepare to spend the rest of your life in prison. Ethan's eyes were filled with terror and despair. He knelt on the ground, begged on his knees for my forgiveness, but his pleas meant nothing to me. In his previous life, he shielded a murderer. In this life, he would spend the rest of his life in prison. Ethan's fate was sealed. Next was Lily's punishment. Being expelled from school was nothing to her compared to the hit-and-run crime she committed in her previous life. I had designed the perfect punishment for her, one that would make her wish she were dead. With $22 million, I was just getting started. I began consciously learning about investing and entered the jewelry industry. Money left idle was dead money. I didn't want to just sit on $22 million. I wanted more, enough to defeat evil people like Ryan Miller's father. Like father, like son, Ryan Miller's abusive tendencies were directly inherited from his father. While Ryan Miller enjoyed torturing cats, his father derived pleasure from abusing students. Under the guise of charity, the tycoon would sponsor students, earning their gratitude and trust, then mentally and physically torment them, verbally demeaning them and hitting them with a whip. His so-called help offered a glimmer of hope, only to push these students into deeper darkness. In my previous life, a sponsored student revealed the truth to me, but not long after, he died in a suspicious accident. At that time, I was as desperate and helpless as they were, but now I was reborn. Heaven had given me a second chance, and I wanted to extend that chance to them, giving them real support and guiding them towards a brighter future. This life wasn't just about revenge, it was also about gratitude. As I became more skilled in financial management, my wealth gradually increased. After collecting enough evidence, I sent the jewelry tycoon to prison. After the tycoon was imprisoned, I arranged for Ryan Miller to be transferred from prison to a psychiatric hospital, and then ensured Lily was also sent there. In prison, Ryan Miller's abusive tendencies hadn't diminished, but had become even more twisted and cruel. In the psychiatric hospital, Lily became Ryan Miller's primary target. When Ryan Miller saw Lily being brought in, he smiled like a predator spotting its prey. In his eyes, Lily was the source of all his suffering. If she hadn't tried to take my place, he believed he wouldn't have been caught and imprisoned. Every day, Lily's screams echoed through the psychiatric hospital. After Ethan went to prison, his mother, Mrs. Davis, lost his financial support and my mother's financial help. She had to sell her only property to pay off her debts and then had to work desperately just to make ends meet. She tried to beg on his knees my mother for forgiveness, but my mother had neither the time nor the patience for her. Instead, my mother was busy preparing gifts and warm clothing for the students I sponsored. Her days were fulfilling and happy, and as the number of students I sponsored continued to grow, I began to change more and more lives. They affectionately called me their benefactor, their eyes filled with hope and gratitude. When they looked at me, they no longer looked lifeless, unlike in my previous life, facing those tragic endings. How wonderful it was to be reborn, not just for myself, but for them too.